All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. This is the Comlink Chatter podcast, and I have two people here today with me. I have my co host, Scott,
Hello.
and then I think this is your first time on this podcast. It is Logan from Logan Likes Legends.
Yes. Hello.
So today we're going to be taking it kind of easy, but I feel like this episode we're going to really go deep on some things. But we're only going through one comic, and that will be Tales comic number one. And so the history with Star Wars Tales is it's a series of anthology stories. Some of them tie together, some of them tie together to the greater EU. But we'll just be going over the first one. And so, Scott, do you have any thoughts on the Star Wars Tales comic book series overall?
I think generally they're not very well liked by the fandom overall. There are a lot of silly stories in there. Some of them are good. There are a lot of comic issues that they couldn't really fit anywhere else that are short enough to maybe they weren't their own miniseries or they weren't their own ongoing series. But there are some pretty good stories in there. I think particularly the first one has Extinction. I think that's the first one we're going to cover, has the Dark Woman. And the Dark Woman is a regular character in the Star Wars Republic series. And back in 1999, we saw her end, her demise. Spoilers if you haven't if you haven't read this comic, but it was kind of neat to get that tie-in, especially since this was before the prequel era and before like Order 66, and we found out about Vader going after the Jedi. There was a Purge mini-series, or I think a couple mini-series of the Purge comics later on, but this was like a prequel to it. That they stuck it in Star Wars Tales. We got to see Mara Jade as well, sort of a sequel to her By the Emperor's Hand comic miniseries. So, you could say what you will about Skippy the Jedi droid and the Jar Jar Binks going after Moby Dick, or there's some weird stories in there, but it's a mixed bag, I think, overall.
All right, Logan, what do you think of the Dark Horse series Tales?
I honestly really love them because there's so many, like, even though there's a lot of silly stories in here, there's so many gems. And even though many of them are considered to be non-canonical, I feel like a lot of it could fit. There's not really a lot of issues on some of these stories. It really helps supplement the EU. Like, one of my favorites is where Han Solo meets Quinlan Voss. I see no issue with that, honestly, as taking place during the A.C. Crispin novels, somewhere maybe prequel to Paradise Snare.
Right. Yeah. I was very surprised whenever I got to that issue, or to that story in that issue. I'm not sure which issue that's at, but here in the chat we have Marcel, the Revanchess. He says, "Hello, you fine gents." Hello, Marcel. All right. So here's an interesting thing that I discovered while setting up the stream. So the single issues and the trade paperback has the tales in different orders. Did you guys notice that?
I remember Extinction being a two-parter. I don't know if they were in different individual issues or not, or maybe just separated, because each comic told like 3 or 4 stories, maybe 5 stories if they were extra short. But I did not know that they were switched up like this, because I read this most recently in the omnibus, I guess. But the Tales issues, they were thicker comics. They had a lot of pages back when they sold them on the newsstand. I remember they were like $4.99 as opposed to $3.99 back in the day.
Right. So Scott, what are you reading yours from? The omnibus or?
Yeah. These came out. I forget when the publication date is on this one. I don't think that they collected it until they finished the series. Oh, it says January 2002, first edition.
Okay.
So they would have still been ongoing, I think, at that point. I don't think they wrapped it up until towards the end of the 2000s.
All right. Logan, what are you reading yours from?
I have read comics online. It's the individual issue #1.
Nice. I read mine from Marvel Unlimited. Then I also have here the same book that Scott has. And so we will be doing the one from, which I think it's this one that we have. I'm not sure. Does yours start with the Dark Woman?
Yes.
Okay.
Extinction is the name of the story arc. So we have Extinction, Senshi, which is the Life, Death, and the Living Forth. That's the Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon story. That's pretty good.
Yes. All right. So since they're in different order, what do you guys think we should start with?
Let's start with the Extinction, I think.
Extinction. All right. Let me go to the. That is actually the third story in the single issues.
Yes.
What's the first story in the single issues?
Living Force.
Oh, interesting.
It goes the Living Force, then the Mara Jade one, then Extinction.
Then Skippy.
Although Mara Jade does appear in Extinction at the very beginning.
Yes. Which is kind of odd with the single issue because her story takes place after Return of the Jedi, where I think that's right. Where Extinction is before, obviously the original trilogy.
Right. So the Mara Jade Knight on the town, that's inferred. You can kind of tell by the text inside there that she has trying to evade Isane Isard, which is part of the Mara Jade by the Emperor's Hand comic series.
Right.
So the Night on the Town would occur after that comic series. And then Extinction, I'm guessing, is sometime before A New Hope. I'm not sure exactly how long, but somewhere in there.
All right. How does that look for everybody? That look good?
It's good to me.
All right. So we'll start with Extinction. Let's wait for the... Oh, what? All right. Extinction. So it starts off with a flower, and then it cuts to Darth Vader walking out of his shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
And then so we have this... I think he's an unnamed officer.
Yeah.
That is surprised that Darth Vader's there.
Yep. He's just landed on Coruscant, getting off his shuttle there. You see a very slender Darth Vader.
Yes.
But he goes right up to meet the Emperor. And the Emperor's throne room, very similar to the second Death Star.
Right. Definitely. Let me get that. Oh, dang. Sorry. Trying to format it just right so I can see you guys and then I can see the comic. All right. So, Darth Vader approaches the Emperor, and he's got some news. The Emperor has summoned Darth Vader because they have found a remaining Jedi from the Old Republic. So the Old Republic referring to the previous Galactic Republic. He says, yes, my master, only a few remain, and those are in hiding. And so he explains that he had found one. And then Vader's almost shocked. And so that's why, we're thinking it's a little bit before A New Hope. I don't know is there an exact canonical time that this is?
Not by the story, it appears. We have the first page. It's just the title. We don't get any indication that they're on Coruscant other than it's pretty obvious because the Emperor's there.
I think the officer makes a comment about
Right. He makes a comment, but you know how sometimes they'll say taking place on Coruscant or just on Coruscant. You know.
That's true. And so he explains the situation to him, and how he was able to get get this information. And then we have a reveal, and that is Mara Jade, the Emperor's hand, got the information of that. And it's interesting. This scene kind of reminds me of their back and forth scene from, I think it's
Allegiance.
Yes.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
What do you guys think so far? Anything stand out to you guys?
The
Mara Jade. Go ahead, Logan.
New Essential Guide to Characters establishes this as 1 to 0 BBY.
Ooh, okay. All right. So it's right there. Logan, do you have anything else to say so far?
I noticed the same thing with it being like Allegiance. Was Allegiance after A New Hope?
Yeah,
Yes.
it was.
So this is like that was a continuation of this rivalry they have.
All right.
Because now
Well,
she's doing his job.
Yeah, I mean, here it said that Mara Jade found out the location of the Dark Woman through her own research, her own methods, and she's not afraid of Darth Vader here at all. Whereas in Allegiance, I thought she was kind of afraid of Darth Vader. She was at the time working with her Stormtrooper squad as a hand of judgment, something like that. And she was doing research in the Imperial archives about something, and then notices Darth Vader's there, and Darth Vader was searching on Luke Skywalker's whereabouts, right? And she makes note of that. But it seems like in Allegiance, when she encountered Vader, it made her a little nervous, a little uneasy. Here, she's not nervous or uneasy at all. She's she's ready to take Vader. In fact, she wants to take on Dark Woman herself.
All right. And so they have this rivalry, Mara Jade and Darth Vader, and they were making remarks to one another, and basically Vader's like, I will take care of this. So he goes to the planet. Do you guys have any final thoughts on that scene?
Mara Jade looks a little bit older than I think she should be.
Probably. That is, how old is she? What is the age difference between her and Luke?
I would assume she's about Luke's age.
Okay.
And I think there's note of her going on missions for the Emperor when she was still a teenager.
17 BBY.
17 BBY. That's when she was born.
Yes, so she's 2 years younger.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so she's not an adult here. She's not yet 18 in this comic.
Well, all right. So he lands on this planet. In the chat, we got Brendan Quinlan Voss here, and he says he wish he would be with us, but I was told that you had more important things by hanging out with other friends. That's what I heard.
But evidently, he has time to show up in the chat here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Logan did join. All right, so
Yes.
the Imperial shuttle lands on the planet. Something I appreciate with comics is when they're not very wordy, and it just lets the visual and you don't. I've been reading some of the Marvel comics, and so you've got this beautiful art piece covered with so much dialogue, explaining the entire plot of Star Wars. So I like these little moments, and you let the artist really express themselves. What do you guys think of the art? What do you think, Logan?
Embracing the medium.
Right.
And I like this artist too, the specific artist. It's I really like when it's detailed and not so abstract. Everything's very like sharp and defined and shadowed.
That's the interesting thing with Tales is you get all kinds of different authors, stories, and artists. Some of them are very nice. Like, I mean, I really like these. And then some of them are the most exaggerated pieces of garbage.
The best one though is Kessel Run. That's the best artist right there.
Is that the one that the artist that did the Underworld one? Oh
That's
no, I remember it. Oh gosh, they do that for the new Marvel comics now. Apparently, almost.
photo insert.
Yes, it feels like it.
I think they did that for the sequel comic. One of them, like, I don't remember. It was like a sequel era comic, and they had like the photo insert art.
Yes. Okay, Scott, what do you think of the art for this story?
I think it's pretty good. The planet appears. I don't know if it's supposed to be a planet that's named or anything, but they have goats there, and then the Dark Woman has a pet. I'm not sure what species that is, but it looks like a tiny monkey lizard thing.
Cofragian 5.
Oh wow!
Is this Salacious Crumb's origin?
It looked like he might be a distant relative of Salacious Crumb for sure. I like how the Emperor is drawn in the opening scenes. The artist is Claudio Castellani.
All right,
and I think it's good. I think there's a little bit too much of Dark Woman here. We see a butt cheek when she reaches for her lightsaber. I didn't need to see all that, but there in the lower left.
I love her saber.
That is a very nice design.
It reminds me of Tales of the Jedi.
I was going to say the Force Unleashed Shakti when she's on Felucia. Kind of similar attire.
Yes, because it's an extremely hot planet. The moment,
it must be very hot there.
See, it's for the plot. As Arthur, I can't speak, would say it's for the lore.
Of course.
Yes. And so she reveals, one of the last of its kind about the flower. So there's this theme with the flower about it's how it's the last of its kind, very much how the Jedi are the last of their kind, and she is. And so Brendan says, looks like, what?
It's a Cofragian monkey, is what it's.
Oh, yes. No, but look what he did.
Yeah.
The B is for Brady. There we go.
We already knew that, though.
Did we? Wait.
Yeah, it's in the lore.
What?
Yep.
Why do Star Wars characters have middle initials?
Stands for Brady.
Wicked W Warx, Salacious B Crumb. Like, who comes up with this?
All right. So they're having their dialogue and philosophies and different things here. Anything about these scenes before we move on?
So, does she know that he's Anakin the whole time, or is that is that a revelation later?
It appears that she knows, at least towards the end of the fight. She mentions that, like, obviously he's more machine than man, so something happened to him. But she seems to know that it's Anakin Skywalker.
She's very nonchalant.
Yeah, like she could have attacked him right when she saw him, but no, she played it cool.
Just yapping.
All right. So then they're talking, and then he goes to strike, and then it's boom, to be continued. So that's how this ends here. It's interesting because they changed the format for the omnibus, and they add in the conclusion to this.
Oh, so it's part 1 and 2?
Yeah, part 1 and 2
Yeah.
for not for the one that we're showing here. Do you guys want to do part 2?
I think let's do part 2. Let's not keep it on a cliffhanger. It makes more sense as a complete story.
All right, I am going to go through here and find it. And
Ooh, I
There's
love
not-
the first issue of part 2. I mean, of issue 2.
I couldn't help but wondering, because Dark Woman was Ashard's het master in Republic,
yeah,
and Ashard Het is still around, and he would be maybe not a Sith, but a Darksider, at least at this point.
I thought Kiarimundi was his master. Or am I misremembering?
Wasn't Dark Woman what is her name? Aura Singh?
Or Singh's
Oh,
master.
RSA, yeah. They were in the same issue. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right.
Now, she did help train, kind of like how other masters would.
Hmm.
But
does she know that Ashard Het's still around?
I don't know.
I couldn't help but wondering. Obviously, in 1999, we wouldn't know any of this. We wouldn't know he's the Sith Lord or anything like this. But now reading it, you can't help but wonder.
Well, because I would think when he's getting tortured, maybe that's, emanating through the Force or his conversion. So painful. Maybe, like, that would be felt. But not, like, a location or anything.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the fight begins. A little bit of a recap on that. And then they begin to duel. And as they're dueling, they have, their dialogue back and forth. This shot down here where she's jumping and holding the lightsaber with 2 hands, I remember from a guidebook. And I was always fascinated about whenever they'd show comic issues. And so whenever I first read this, I was like, finally, I get the full story to this. Little did I know that she would be fleshed out even more in the Republic comics. But what do you guys think of this fight?
Her hilt's massive.
Yeah, she's got old school Tales of the Jedi lightsaber hilt right there.
Yeah.
That's how they used to draw them back in the day.
Yep.
I like it. I think the fight's very well choreographed. Good artwork, good color. The purple lightsaber contrasts well against the red.
Mm-hmm. When was the first appearance of a purple lightsaber?
Was it
Mace Windu, I want to say. At least the action figure had a purple lightsaber in the lead up to episode 1.
Well, this
blue.
His was blue.
Oh, was it blue?
Yeah, it was blue in the comics before episode 1. And then they were making episode 2, and that's when he was like, hey, can I do like purple? And George was like, yeah, I could probably do that. Probably because he read the comics and knew, yeah, that's fine. So he ends up killing her. And
Jaina Solo.
Jaina Solo? Okay.
1996. And then Dark Forces 2, 1997.
All right. First appearance. There you go.
I think. It might also be Republic. Anya Kuro had one.
Okay.
I want to say I thought there was one in Tales of the Jedi, but those are the first ones.
Though, yeah. It's kind of hard to tell with those ones because the colors are very exaggerated anyway. Like the blade will be different colors and different panels at times, much like the Marvel comics. But she becomes a Force ghost after she dies, and she vanishes like Obi-Wan. What do you guys think about that?
Apparently, she got the same guidance from Qui-Gon about the netherworld of the Force that Obi-Wan did.
I think the flower, I think the flower represents hope, or
Yeah.
not hope, but it represents like the little bit left of Vader's humanity. Because I think there's something up here where I'm trying to find it. Oh, you know, she wants Vader to, it doesn't need to be this way. There's no escape from the dark side. It's too late. So the flower represents like that last hope, that last vestige of Anakin,
Mhm.
and he crushes it, and he's walking to Sidious.
That's a menacing look. Let me see if I can blow that up. Oh. See,
Heck
there's some
yeah.
spoilers for some great art. Max Rebo and
Max Rebo buns.
all right. So that is the conclusion here. Logan, what do you think of this story overall?
I think it's very good. Just a very good duel. I like all the I like all the nature.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of movement here. Like they're going to a lot of different places in this location. I really like her using the vines. It kind of I don't know if there's another. Oh, I guess like Dark Empire when the Nettie tangles up Cedrus, or in
Right.
Red Harvest when the other Nettie is using his vines. It kind of reminds me of that.
Mm-hmm.
Or what was it? The main character, the girl, she's able to will plants to grow, and she
Mm-hmm.
tangles up the zombies with the vines. It's like a similar thing. Agriculture Jedi.
Scott, what do you think of this story?
I like it. It's very well done. Artwork's great. Story's great. It's an impactful character. I think I've always kind of I would have been curious had we not had this story, what happened to the Dark Woman. So I like that we got a conclusion. Great idea for the story. I know Darth Vader hunting Jedi has been done numerous times, but I think this is done well. I like the drawing of Palpatine at the end, his face, his eyes lighting up in the very last page towards the right hand side, the very bottom. That's pretty nice there.
Menacing, for sure. I mean, I agree with you guys. I think this is a great story that concludes her story, gets Vader more to the point where how he is in the original trilogy, and that is where Anakin is completely crushed and gone. But yes. I do think it's interesting with the Force Ghost. Of course, this is before the prequels came out, and so it was almost the normal for when a Jedi dies, they'll get a Force Ghost,
right,
for themselves. But was this ever elaborated on in anything else?
No, I think there was a point, Obi-Wan says in the Thrawn trilogy where he can't appear anymore. Right. He can't appear to Luke. So there's limitations on this Force power, how long you can stick around. And I don't think we see Dark Woman appear as a Force ghost anywhere outside of this comic. So that's not to say she couldn't have appeared off screen, but
because I think the nature of a Force ghost is like there's a slight attachment there, and the whole point is to let go and become one with the flow of the Force. So there's kind of like a expiration date, not expiration. There's kind of like a timer for, I guess, how long you could do that. Like how long can you hold on to attachment? You're not supposed to. So I think there's a physical limit for how long they can remain a ghost.
Right.
All right. Trying to pull it up. All right. So, what story should we do next? Is it the Living Force?
Yeah. it's titled Senshi now, but on the next page it says Life, Death, and the Living Force. So I'm not sure which title is the right title. I don't know if that shows up on yours.
Scott or Logan, you guys want to take the lead on this one, or?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Logan.
Oh, you can go.
So we have Obi-Wan interacting with a life form on this planet. Hey, little guy, what kind of thing are you? And he's I guess he's not familiar with that species, but he wants to make friend with it. Makes friend with it, and then he's attacked by a giant lizard.
Caterpillar
spider. I don't know what you'd call that, but he's taken off guard by it, and the thing, it looks like it chomps down on a branch or something. I don't know, but Qui-Gon makes mention that he broke its mouth and is no longer able to eat, and it's going to starve to death. And that makes Obi-Wan a little uneasy. So they're pondering the nature of other life forms as a Jedi, as their role as a Jedi in interacting with other life forms. And we see Qui-Gon also has a native of some sort, kind of a racist looking character, with a little hat. I'm not sure how you'd classify this character, but he speaks as if in a foreign accent. This is the prequel era. They were going off like Jar Jar Binks and Watto and a lot of these stereotypes, but very, very fitting of that era. And it's very annoying. Obi-Wan complains about it, and they go on here. They go back to the hut, or the place that they're staying at, and what's this guy's name, Logan? I forget his name.
Moscow Bulpa.
Yeah, so he's just complaining, and Obi-Wan can't stand him. He just goes on and on about this and that, and they have to feed him. It's pretty insufferable. There we see him chomping down on some fruit there on the top right. What do you guys think of this so far?
Go ahead, Logan.
I love Qui-Gon in this because he's just so sage and wise, and it's like his philosophy on the living force. It's really it's just really in depth. Like, it really helps flesh out the Force itself and the Jedi.
What do you think, Brady?
Was this published before Jedi Apprentice?
Around the same time, I think. So Jedi Apprentice, the first two books actually came out before Episode 1. Ooh. But the series was ongoing for a while.
And this really does coincide with it, because you see how impatient Obi-Wan is, and that's a recurring theme, that he's very prone to anger and frustration. Yeah. And then Qui-Gon is just going with the flow, letting things happen as it's supposed to be.
I gotcha. Okay. That's kind of the sense that I got from the Jedi Apprentice books. And I feel like something I'd like to do is go and read their entire journey in chronological order, with adding this where it needs to go, and then the other Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan.
And the Xbox Obi-Wan game.
Yes. And so I really like seeing more of their relationship, and also seeing how much Obi-Wan was similar to Anakin. And I feel like you can kind of get a sense of that from this. I think there being an annoying character, it really fits the theme of the Phantom Menace, which, of course, this is a prequel too. But as we keep going through this, it starts to get more interesting. So I mean, I'm liking it so far.
Mm. Yeah, I think the back and forth between Obi-Wan, I mean, all the while, Qui-Gon is just remaining calm through this entire thing. Like, he's not paying attention to Obi-Wan at all. He's teaching him a lesson, really, to deal with this guy, even though he is insufferable to deal with. That his job is to serve the Force, to be a Jedi, and to sort of go along with the program. Now, it turns out this guy is his species. They're all going to double cross Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon there. So they come down and attack them. He says, "Kill them, get their stuff." I
Their loot.
So they're very simple-minded characters. He says, "Obi-Wan, arm yourself." What? I knew it. I knew the little brat would turn on us. Focus, Obi-Wan. Be here and now. So all the while, he's focusing on the living Force, and that's a constant theme that's, I guess, was mentioned in episode 1. That's alluded to here.
What do you guys think of the difference between, like, the way, like, the differences in the Force? Like, you have the living Force, and then you have the control with the Force. I don't know what the exact term for that one is.
Cosmic.
That's what it is.
And the physical Force.
Yes. What do you think of the definitions that Qui-Gon brings to the conversation of the Force?
I think Qui-Gon is very embedded in the living Force. So like like he said, the here, the now, what's around you. So that's like life that's around you. I think he's more aligned with just I wouldn't say like the cycle of life, but just the everyday flow of life, the everyday equilibrium that's there in the background.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I never paid much attention to the living Force or the cosmic Force, but Qui-Gon seems to have a different take than most Jedi have on the situation. And that's like, I guess that kind of makes sense how he wasn't promoted to be on the Jedi Council. He was a bit of a maverick, a bit of a rogue for the Jedi Order. Yeah, well, even though he didn't necessarily turn to the dark side or anything like that, but he stomped his own path through things and didn't necessarily do things by the book, as far as what he was told to do by the Jedi Order.
Because you have the two definitions of Grey Jedi, where one is the popular is to say they use light and dark, but in reality it would be they're on that threshold. But the other definition that comes from KOTOR is like they're not bound by the laws and the rules of the council. They're out doing their own thing. They only answer to the Force itself. And so this is very exemplified by his actions. He's going with the here, the now, not the dogma. He's going with the flow. So this would be akin to like the canon equivalent, Jedi Way Seekers, or Legends, the original Great Jedi definition.
Right. Which it's interesting how much the fandom has muddled the term Grey Jedi.
To the point that even the people that work at Lucasfilm think that that's what it is. Like Dave Filoni, oh, there's no Grey Jedi. They can't use light and dark. George Lucas said no. So we're going to make Jedi Way Seekers, which is literally just Grey Jedi.
Exactly. By the original definition, which it's a morally gray based on the standards. Like, and that's, of course, I debate people whenever they say, well, Grey Jedi, whatever, or I'll make a comment about, oh yes, I might be asking for it sometimes. Qui-Gon Jinn, he's such a great Grey Jedi. People go, rant about it, and get all that. But anyway, I really like Qui-Gon. I kind of like the theory that if he had survived, Anakin would not have he wouldn't have become Darth Vader.
Duel of the Fates.
Exactly. But anyway, that's kind of my Qui-Gon Jinn thoughts.
Yeah, Qui-Gon's certainly interesting, but I found Obi-Wan to be quite compelling as well in this story because he has sort of a moral code where he doesn't want to kill anybody, and he mentions to Qui-Gon that he knew Moscow would turn on them, and he says, "Well, why did you trust him up until the point where you had to kill him?" So Qui-Gon has no qualms about using his lightsaber to kill him if he has to, but Obi-Wan doesn't really understand that action. Like he thinks like killing is bad, and it makes me think these Jedi are captured, or well, not captured at a young age, but they're brought into the temple at a young age, and they don't really know anything outside of the morals of what they're taught in the Jedi Order. So it's weird to me that Obi-Wan has a sense of morality that's apart from what he's taught. Did anybody sort of catch on to that? I know it's kind of weird trying to analyze morality of a fictional, Jedi Jedi philosophy, but I found that a little weird.
If we assume that this takes place during or after the Jedi Apprentice series, you really see Obi-Wan and his code evolve, like especially when he leaves the Jedi Order to fight for the Melita Dawn in Civil War, and that's like the biggest thing is like he even then when he's fighting the Civil War, he doesn't want to take lives. He uses stun and
Right.
non-lethal, but the whole thing is that like he has a strong compassion, this strong moral code. It's like the Jedi Order didn't want to meddle with the planet's affairs, but Obi-Wan felt bound to help them and solve their issues. He believed he could, for the greater good of the Force. That's something Qui-Gon would have done, but Qui-Gon in that moment was bound by the rules of Yoda and the Council. So throughout the whole thing, you really see him grow.
Yeah, in this story, Qui-Gon seems to just follow whatever the Force tells him, even to the point of death. Like he says, well, if the Force, if the Force makes me die one day, like I'll be content with that. I won't fight against it. And Obi-Wan is taken aback by that. And he has this moral sense that based on his feeling, and not he doesn't sense, he's not attuned to the living Force as Qui-Gon is.
Anything else before we move on?
Nope.
All right. So after a bit of them traveling through the forest, they approach a skeleton, along with a number of other skulls on spikes.
A Silan, which Obi-Wan thinks it's a mythical creature, but turns out to be an actual creature that they go after.
And I got a lot to say about that once we're done.
Well, if you want to, they end up going into the nest of it, and they end up wiping them out. So he asked, "Master, may I ask a question?" "Of course, Obi-Wan." "Did we truly do the right thing by killing the Sorry, it's kind of small for me.
Salon.
The Salon. It felt so awful to take such a large life. It was unpleasant for me too." And then he goes on to explain how we are Jedi. Our lives are not ours to live as we wish. We are pledged to serve a higher power than ourselves. So he goes into more about the philosophies of what they are and what it means to be a Jedi. Of course, Obi-Wan is book smart. He's been taught all these lessons, but then he gets to this, where this point where he has to apply what he learns, and through missions like these, he starts to understand what it truly means to be a Jedi. Do you guys have anything to say about this final interaction, or even the slaughter scene?
It seems that Obi-Wan is attuned to a degree to the living force and empathetic to it, but he's not bound to it like Qui-Gon is. He's not following its path. He's more so like an observer.
I found it curious that Qui-Gon knew exactly what the living force is telling him. Like, he could just be crazy after all. Like, just go into this Cillian den, this altar, and slaughter him. And he just says, "Oh, I went in there because the force told me to."
Well, about that. So, if we dive into supernatural encounters for this.
All right.
So if we go all the way back to the top, the planet, it's like the planet Aurora.
Yes.
Aurora. So it says that that planet was tainted by the dark side during the early days of the cosmic wars. So that explains why the life on this planet is so twisted, and why Moscow Bulpa and the Mogonites, they're twisted and corrupted.
Take their stuff.
Yeah.
Take their loot.
And part of that is also because of the Cylon deep underground is polluting the world in darkness. But so each of these creatures that's mentioned, the very first one that Obi-Wan sees with that little face, so that one's a Squallygawk, and then later they mention by name, there's the Cylon, there's the, what are the other ones? The Barracles, the Gluths, all said to be mythical creatures, and Qui-Gon says that it's a primordial, what is it? It's a most primordial creature, the dark side. So with all this, where do these creatures come from? So whip out the notebook. So in Supernatural Encounters, Talatni, one of the Bedlam spirits from Talatni Throws a Shape. Right. So she was created by Wutsek from Pandora's, I think it was Pandora's box. The Maker, Supreme Maker, he created the Celestials, Wutsek being one of them. And so Wutsek wanted to replicate that in Sky River, and he created the Bedlam spirits. And then but his creation was it wasn't perfect. That's why Talatni's a little messed up. And then she furthermore wanted to become God and replicate that. And so in her primordial womb, she was growing her children. They would basically be like her Celestials. And Wutsek, they didn't want all that going around running amok, those corrupted beings of Talatni. So what did he do? He turned her into what's it called? El Shadem. She twisted her into like a worm, because of her vanity and all that. Twisted her into that worm, El Shadem, and so all of her children in her womb were also twisted. And so in her final moments, they ripped out of her, and that's all these worm-like species like Cylons, Barracles, Gluths, Squallyhawks. Those are all children of Talatni. They were supposed to be like celestial children, and they were corrupted to become these worm and centipede, millipede like creatures. And in her last moments of clarity, she condensed, channeled all of her love that was deep down, and created Belot, who would become Abeloth.
Ooh.
So, and in Abeloth's first moments as a demigod child, she's targeted by the Squally Hawk. Squally, what's it called? Squally, yeah, Squally Hawk. So in that first scene, you see that little face that Obi-Wan sees
Mhm.
in the bushes. Abeloth sees that and thinks, "Oh, is it my sibling? Am I going to have a friend?" And then the Squally Hawk tries to eat her. And so in self-defense, she makes it explode with the Force. And this is her first kill. This is her first act of darkness. And the Father of Shadows congratulates her. So this is like her first step down the path of the dark side, is killing her sibling, the Squally Hawk. And so going on those other ones,
So is there one Squally Hawk or is there multiple? Is this the only one?
yeah, I would think from her womb, it was just like multiple, like a swarm.
Okay.
And there might have been one like main, and it just like burst out. Because I think a lot of these other species, it might have been like a handful of them that came, and then they bred and spread on these worlds.
Gotcha.
So,
Because
like,
Qui-Gon seems to know how it eats and how it. When it got injured in its fight with Obi-Wan, that it
Yeah.
would starve to death.
yeah, and so, like some of them are more like the Squally Hawk. It's more natural, but then something like the Cylon would be more unnatural, where it's feeding on the life force of the world and stuff like that. So, but in modern times, a lot of these creatures were believed to have come from Sith alchemy,
Ooh.
like summoned. And in reality, they were summoned from other space, places like that. And so that's why Qui-Gon references them as primordial creatures of the dark side. So let's see. So the Cylon, it's buried deep under the mountain of Aurora, and this is a theme we see with a lot of these children of El Shaddam. So they like to burrow themselves deep underground, towards the core, kind of like leeching off of the life essence of the planet. And another one mentioned by name in this comic is a Gluth. And Supernatural Encounters says that they're on Mimbon. In Splinters of the Mind's Eye, when Luke throws Darth Vader down that pit, that's a Gluth. That's a Gluth den. So he had to fight a Gluth to get himself out. So the Gluth was feeding off the planet, but also was attracted to the energies of the Kyber crystal.
Wow.
And another one, the Baracals. Nothing's really expanded upon on those, but they are also children of Talatni. So yeah, when Qui-Gon said that the living force directed him to kill the Cylon, it's because the Cylon's not a natural creature. It's a child of Talatni. It's corruption. It's draining the planet of its life force. So if anything, the living force, or maybe even the Celestials, Wutsek, might have been directing Qui-Gon to eliminate that Cylon, almost like a bounty. Like,
Right.
this is a primordial creature, the dark side. This isn't part of the living force. This isn't natural. It's not a part of the niche. It's not part of balance. It's a avatar of imbalance.
So that's neat that Qui-Gon's attuned to all that, and he doesn't second guess it. He just follows it, and you get a nice lesson with him and Obi-Wan there, and it all ties into Supernatural Encounters. Who would have thought?
Yep.
I would have even
That's crazy.
followed that.
I've not got that far. I took a break so I could catch up on some EU. But
yeah, I think that's book 5 or books. It might be the end of book 5 or beginning of book 6.
I think I finished book 3, and so that's kind of where I'm at. I felt like I was a good little break point. Sorry, I have allergies going on, and my eyes are all.
Book 3, 4, and 5 is just all crazy shit with the Cosmic Wars. But once you get to book 6, that's my favorite. That's when you get some real peak. That's when you start getting like the Sith Order and all that stuff. It starts becoming what we recognize.
Could you read? Could I skip the Cosmic Wars stuff and come back to it later?
There's certain sections that are like vital plot points because there's a lot of stuff in between where it's just there to explain like references in the EU or whatever. But there's a lot of specific like moments, like especially with like the ones that are vital to the thing. I could probably skim through the sections and tell you which ones
we'll have to
are
do
vital plot points.
Okay, we'll have to do that one probably after the show. I might ask you some of that. All right. So, any final thoughts on this tale?
I'm just amazed at the lore associated with this and supernatural encounters, what Logan just discussed. Because to me, the importance of this story weren't the creatures that were mentioned. It was sort of the lesson that Qui-Gon teaches Obi-Wan. But it's amazing what else you can pull from this story and have all these creatures be interconnected and have their own lore associated with it. So I just find that fascinating. Joe did a great job tying that in.
Yeah, it's like building off those mentions of primordial creatures, or these are myths. Why are they myths? Why are they primordial? It's really cool stuff like that, expanding on that context.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So are we ready to move on to Mara Jade, A Night on the Town?
Mm-hmm.
My next one is Skippy, but we can go to Mara Jade. That's fine.
Oh, okay. We'll do the best for last. We'll save Skippy.
Skippy is the best, right?
I love Skippy.
He will be in The Mandalorian. Skippy will be. The Mandalorian movie, apparently. So, hey.
As a Jedi.
Yes, hopefully. As a Jedi.
Mandalorian Jedi. Imagine like Grogu's inside him like one of the Iron Knights.
Yes. He grows because in the end of Mandalorian season 1, there's like a mech.
The IG.
R2,
yeah.
Or no, the R2. Oh. He's like a buff R2D2. There you go.
He just extends one of his droid arms and has the dark saber. He's like chopping away, he's rolling down the thing, just chopping away with the dark saber.
Skippy is the chosen one. He brought balance to the Force. He followed the living Force. Yeah, he felt it till his death. We won't spoil.
Don't spoil. So Mara Jade, Night on the Town.
All right. So this takes place during, or is it directly after the events of Mara Jade by the Emperor's hand?
I think it's right after, because at the end of that story, she sort of leaves on a transport, like a public refugee transport type of thing. Okay. And then we see her here. She gets off at this planet, and they tell her, "Oh, it's kind of a tough area. Are you sure you want to be dropped off at this planet?" And she says yes, and she finds Crix Medine here. So Crix Medine, this is after Return of the Jedi. So he was one of the heroes of the Battle of Endor, and he's meeting up with the local rebels there. And there's this Imperial governor, Barkel, and we'll find out later that he's super corrupt. And Mara actually remembers, well, yeah, like all Imperials are, right? Mara actually remembers Governor Barkel, from the Emperor pointing him out in the court.
I like how he's just like hiding. Like,
can we talk about something?
Does he wear that? Doesn't he have fancier clothes to like go to the Imperial court with? That's
Gorman fabric. It's Gorman fabric right there. So it's the best you can get.
Don't spoil it. I'm almost there. I got behind. I was catching up week to week. Now I'm
Also,
behind.
I have to say, there's a lot of aliens in the Imperial Court there for a
They're,
empire that is very xenophobic.
see, those are slaves that he just put in suits to make him look like he's in support.
Oh, like they're nice guys. Hand out drinks to them.
This is the
you know.
lobby. They didn't let them inside.
Yeah. This is, yeah.
He's just out there grifting.
Just talking trash. Jeez, I'm at.
Right. And throughout this story, I will say it does bother me a little bit that Mara has way too much internal dialogue, internal monologue of where she's thinking through all of her actions. Every single tactical point that she goes through the planet, there's a thought bubble of her actually thinking through everything. Did that bother you guys?
A little bit.
Nitpicking.
Yeah, because I really loved the first person point of view in some of these. Like you're like almost watching like her body cam footage. Like I really liked seeing it from her eyes, but we heard a little bit too much from her mind. Yeah, it's a little too. It's almost like she's nervous. Like I don't know. It's like she sounds like a Padawan, honestly.
Yeah. This is like the type of stuff that like Obi-Wan, that whole dialogue, but she's just having it with herself instead of,
But rest in peace that droid who got stabbed in the crotch with the lightsaber.
Yeah, I was gonna say
crazy.
that's pretty brutal. He got sodomized by a lightsaber there.
Right in the pistons. All right. So she's just for people to know, General Main was the guy that gave the presentation of
Battle of Endor.
Yeah, the Battle of Endor, and he had the fake beard that was put on because they had to keep continuity with the toys, which is crazy.
Okay, his haircut here looks pretty
he looks
pretty
like
bad. Looks like he had the
he's a Bomar monk.
I thought they were brains in the jar.
Well, yeah, the coconut hair. That's how you know where to cut. That's how you know where to cut.
Coconut hair.
I'm just saying he looks very rough after the Battle of Endor. You'd think he'd be able to afford a nicer haircut.
He's very pious general.
Probably. Uh-huh. All right, what do we think of the artwork? We didn't talk about the artwork in the Living Force one either. But what do you think, Logan?
I like Living Force. Qui-Gon seems very manly.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this one, I like how like they have like the black lines like for rain and like shadow. It makes it very dark. Some of their faces are a little weird with the shadowing. Like it looks like they have eyeliner.
Yes,
but it's at least I really do. I like the first person point of view on some of these though. That's a really interesting touch. I don't think we see that ever really.
That is interesting. What do you think, Scott, of the art of Living Force and Mara Jade?
Living Force is very nice. It's very bright. Reminds me of just the general episode 1 vibe. Look like they could be on Naboo, even though they're obviously not on Naboo. They're on Aurora, whatever it is.
Aurora.
But there's a lot of color. Very, very well done. Like the lightsaber, how it glows there. And the Mara Jade comic looks very similar. In fact, I was trying to look up and see if the artist is the same from By the Emperor's Hand. It's Igor Cordy.
Okay.
Looks very similar drawing. Obviously, he can't get Madine's haircut, or if he's just like doing that on purpose for some reason. But I like the shadows. I think it fits the story well. Not the greatest, but it works.
Something that bothered me. Why is her lightsaber green?
That's a good point. It should be red.
Yeah, it's like magenta.
Hmm.
Magenta lightsaber.
Yeah. Should be. Wasn't it purple?
They describe it differently every time. It's like purple,
true.
violet, magenta, pink.
And in this case, green.
Yeah.
She has the Ahsoka's lightsaber. It changes.
Oh, that's right.
It changes every story that it appears in. And here's the funny thing: when they retell that story, that she will have a different color lightsaber than she did in all the other adaptations.
She has the Kiadi-Mundi phase shifting crystal.
Yes, that's how it works.
How come nobody cosplays as the ninja version of Mara Jade?
That's true.
Because they all want to be the underage one from Extinction or whatever that movie.
Yeah, what is she doing to Medine?
Yeah, it's a very compromised position. We see an even more compromised position at the very end.
All right, so what's the plot, guys? What's going on here?
So apparently, Mara's. It's not immediately clear, but she's a little bit friendly with the rebels, but she wants to find a way to go after the Imperial governor. So. Okay. The way she does that is sort of infiltrate the rebel base, because apparently they have intel on that she needs to get. I wasn't initially clear, like going in blind and reading this after not having read it a while. You would think Mara Jade, she served the Emperor, right? Now she's sort of on the run from Isard ever since the Emperor died, but she wouldn't necessarily be friendly with the Rebel Alliance, would she? But here her main priority is to bring the corrupt governor to justice. But in order to do that, she has to infiltrate the rebel base here.
And it's interesting that, like, Palpatine's dead, but she's still wanting to fulfill like her mission. Like, this is one of her last missions that she didn't get to do, and she's still going through with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's not looking out for her own well-being, although in a way she sort of takes some of the money at the end, so she is looking out for herself too. But
it's also very interesting, the implication that by her giving these billions of credits over to the rebels, that she helped fund the foundation of the New Republic.
There was a point on that when we get to it, because I thought these funds, obviously they were siphoned off by the governor for his own collection. He has this museum with all these like priceless artifacts and tons of cash and stuff. But I thought he got that from collecting taxes from the locals. Like this is the public treasury fund. This is like people's social security she's stealing to fund the rebels. So I was a little uneasy about that, just handing it over to the rebels to fund their war effort. I'm not sure that meets the highest morality standards.
Well, if it gets Yasana Sard off her back, then let fund the New Republic, and then they're going to take Coruscant. That's her plot.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of seems like she's not for any side, because you have Isard that she hates, and then she has Luke Skywalker that she hates. And so her thing is just get whoever's on my back off it. And so she's not helping. She's helping herself when she does this.
She's very careful to stun all of the rebels. I don't think she kills anybody.
Yeah.
She kills the droid, obviously, but yeah. So Madine's in his boxer shorts here. And she just climbs on top of him to pin him. You would think you'd be able to overpower somebody of Mara Jade's stature, wouldn't you?
Tell me why I thought in that scene that he was going to try and grab the lightsaber with his feet because it looks like it looks like he's holding it with his feet. I thought like the next thing would be like, oh, he's gonna kick it or whatever.
I thought the same thing. Like all of his toes are drawn. For the detail in this comic is not very high level, but here we see all of Madine's toes, which I'm not sure is necessary.
Here's the question: can you guys grip a lightsaber with your toes?
I mean, if it was a matter of life or death, I probably could.
What would you do if you were in Chris Madine's position?
I would just throw her off of me and kill her, I guess. I don't know.
Like, his like I feel like he could easily kick the lightsaber to his hand, which is like she's only holding him by the elbow. So this doesn't seem very secure. She's not holding his legs down.
Yeah.
I like how when she's I'm not sure if we passed it or not, but at one point when she infiltrates the rebel headquarters there, she uploads some footage of the Star Destroyers there, and the Executor. This is after the Battle of Endor, so everybody should know that the Executor was destroyed there. It was kind of a high profile battle that people would be aware of, but apparently they don't seem to think so.
They address it. The majority of them is like, oh my gosh, the Empire is here, and then one of the people are like, that is the Executor, and then they catch on to the plan, and that's when she gets out of there. So it's let's see, incoming imps, a whole fleet, and then they fight for a bit, and then
so Madine thinks he's thinks Mara's there to kill him,
right?
Which would make sense because she is an Imperial assassin,
right?
But Mara refers to Madine as an old man. Not bad for an old man. I don't think he was that old. Did you guys think Madine was that old?
I think it's the haircut that is not doing him a favor. But I mean, from his physique, he doesn't seem too old.
No. We should rock like a tonsure haircut, like with the bald spot on top. That would make him look more like a monk, like you said.
A Bomar monk.
Oh my gosh.
It's why it's bald on top, so you know where to cut. That's the surgical area.
Oh, that's unsettling.
You know what's crazy though? Have you read Galaxy of Fear?
Yes.
Bro, a freaking like kids book, and they're cutting the main protagonist's brain out and putting they're swapping. They went off the rails at the end.
Oh, I didn't get that far yet. I think I'm still on Planet Plague, but like.
Oh, well, when you get there, you're gonna see it's gonna get really intense towards the end.
Well, they turn him into a freaking zombie in the second one. They like bury him alive. Like, jeez. Like Goosebumps scared me as a child.
I like how Dr. E is like actually a real doctor. Like he's trying to operate on these people to bring them back to life.
Yeah, he's the good guy.
Like, if he could be successful at that, he would make a lot of money. Like he would make a name for himself.
Do you want spoilers
for Galaxy of Fear?
Yeah.
Not really.
Okay. The last book is completely off the rails.
Is it? Okay.
Completely. It's horrible. It's
all right.
So
well,
crazy.
From that review from you, I will try to speed read them.
I finished the entire series during the hurricane because I had no power.
Oh yeah.
So that's all I did. I read Galaxy of Fear straight.
When was that?
Last year in June.
Ah.
Or July. I don't remember. It was almost a year ago.
I've got a handful of them. About the Army of Terror. 6. Yeah. I can get the rest of them though.
I got it right here. I got a rotating shelf.
Do you have the hardcover?
Perchance.
Perchance. Let's see it real quick.
Look at that.
Where?
Got a
That
Mylar cover on there.
Ooh,
Oh, book 2, man, look at that.
Yeah,
That's
the
gorgeous.
the hunger. The hunger. This is the crazy one.
I need to make those.
Boba Fett on Dagobah with them.
That one's the wild one.
I like this.
Clones.
Yeah. Clones is cool because Zeta Magnus is tied up in there. Doomsday Ship is a really, really interesting implications with Doomsday Ship.
Yeah, those are wild. No holds bar there. There was no Lucasfilm oversight when they did those children's books.
George
is crazy too.
George approved it, and it is his canon 100%.
Well, I mean, continuity-wise, it was like they can do whatever they want, pretty much.
Yeah, no, I get you. All right, so it finishes with her confronting the senator, and she ends up killing him. Her lightsaber looks a bit reddish here. I don't know if that's just me. But she ends up taking the money and...
I thought that was a blaster.
Oh, is it a blaster?
Yeah,
it is a blaster. It is a blaster. Okay.
Is she Ezra Bridger?
She's got a slingshot.
A slingshot lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot lightsabers. Any comments about this before we get to the great conclusion to this issue?
So does it say what they did with the money? Are they going to give it back, or is it just up in the air?
So Mara takes some pocket money, some traveling money, as she refers it to, and then the rest goes to Maydeen, who she said she made a deal with. So it's not clear until after we've read that at the very end, because it's not like after Maydeen and Mara Jade fight that they sit at a table and discuss what happened. But she gets the intel of the location of this governor who has this money stashed away here. And when she finds out about him, he's like, okay, you can take all the money, but he tries to like reach for a blaster or something, and Mara kills him.
Yeah.
So could have got away with his life, but
like Maydeen, he doesn't strike me as the person to be like, let's give it back to the sector. I feel like he'd be more like a Garmel Iblis, like, we're going to use this for the military, for the rebels.
I could see that.
Because it really makes sense, like, that this would be what helps fund the New Republic. Because the Empire's dead, but for the first time, the rebels are actually having to start swarming these systems together. It's almost like the Yuuzhan Vong War. It's like, it seems like it'd be like crazy overwhelming.
Yeah, to fund a new government, I'm sure they need all the money that they can come across. But do you guys remember from Jedi Prince? There's a part where I think it's in the third book, where they say Jabba's palace was converted to a residence for retired aliens.
Oh yeah.
These public funds would have prevented those retired aliens from having to live in Jabba's palace.
I think that's a nod to the Bomar monks. They're retired, but they're getting lobotomized.
Oh.
They're lobotomized, not going in, but when they're there.
So, jeez. All right. We're done here with this one. So we're going to jump to the feature presentation. Let me close this while I find it. Because I'll have to skip through. Aha, here we go. So as I was reading it today, I forgot that this story was in this book. And so I saw Obi-Wan. And I was like, is there a tale about Obi-Wan that I forgot about? And then it comes to Skippy the Jedi droid, and I'm like, oh, this is where the fun begins. So, Logan, do you want to take the lead on this one? Or do you want one of us to do it?
I'll take it. So, Obi-Wan's on... I almost said Camino. Obi-Wan's on Tatooine. It's the opposite. So, he's he's going through. He senses the presence of another Jedi, and he's very curious. He's trying to look around and find them. It feels like it's right under his nose. Little does he know, there's a little bartender droid right there. And then, so it seems that someday, Skippy just became self-aware, just realized he was conscious. And, but the other droids, they're kind of, he can't really fit in anywhere. So, he's going everywhere. He's working for Jabba. And so he bumps into Boba Fett and it knocks a drink over, and then boom, he grabs it with the Force, and that's when Skippy realizes, oh, I am special. I am really special. But so he begins practicing in the desert, throwing rocks.
Why does that droid look like Bender from
It is
Futurama? Is that
there's a lot of Easter eggs in this comic. The other two droids on the other side, those are from Mystery Science Theater 3000. It's a Crow T Robot and Tom Servo.
Oh, okay, nice.
And then so he manages to pop his restraining bolt off. He sneaks out of Jabba's palace with the Force, mind tricking the Gamorreans. So he's free, but at a cost because he's running out of power. The desert's taking its toll, and so that's when the Jawas pick him up when he's about to die. They clean him up, and he meets R2-D2 inside the Sandcrawler. R2's babbling about some mission. And then, C-3PO pulls up. And when he sees C-3PO, he has a vision of Leia, Vader, all this stuff, very connected. So Skippy believes that it's his fate to go with C-3PO to, fulfill this vision. And so, there's the moisture farmers. He mind tricks Owen into buying him, and the two go. But then once he's, rolling his way to his new owners, he realizes, oh, wait, the vision was wrong. If I go, then, R2 will be captured, Leia will be killed, Alderaan, all that stuff. So the Empire will win if R2 doesn't go with them. And so in that moment, Skippy uses the Force to blow out his motivator. And so he dies, but he lives on as a Force ghost.
Yeah. Did you guys know
Emotional.
that if you blow your motivator, that's a fatal problem for a droid?
Somehow Skippy has returned. That's how they brought him back in.
I just want to say one thing about the mind trick. I think it first happened. Obviously, it happened on Uncle Owen there, but with the Gamorreans, he just says "beep a boop, do bop bop," and apparently the Gamorreans are mind tricked by that. So you can speak the mind trick in any language, even if the Gamorreans or whoever you're mind tricking doesn't understand that language, it still works. I found that fascinating.
Yeah. I like how he says that she has cinnamon roll hair.
Yes.
And then in the vision, she actually has cinnamon rolls.
Yes.
So what do y'all think about the idea of there being Force sensitive droids? Possible, impossible, gray area.
It's pretty silly, I think.
I think it's the way this story portrays it would not be accurate. I think you almost need like I don't think a droid would just go sentient, like like that. I don't know. That's a question. What do you think, Logan?
So with this story, in the Abel G. Pena article, Droids Technology and the Force: The Clash of Phenomenon, it actually touches on the entire issue of how technology interacts with the Force. And so that article establishes that the myth of Skippy exists in universe. So everything we're seeing here could be a very exaggerated myth. But, there could be a slight truth to it, perhaps. Maybe it was this droid, maybe just in general, that there is droids that can somehow interact with the Force. And as we see in Tales of the Bounty Hunters, Forlom, by studying Zuckuss, he supposedly had an epiphany and was able to computate the Force with complicated algorithms and equations to the point that he believed that he could predict the flow of the Force in the future by calculating it, which we know is possible because Darth Tenebris, that was his whole thing. And so another thing is, perhaps, a droid can't interact with the Force on its own. They need some type of intermediary. So you have the Iron Knights, where they have they have the crystals inside them
Right.
that channel the Force through the droid body. Now, in this comic, though, there is an explanation where, his biolube was infested with midichlorians. So perhaps that would be, that would be like the blood of a droid is the lubricants. So I don't know. Maybe perhaps that could factor in the absence of biological components. The lube itself may be enough to channel the Force. But even then, we do have precedents of non-living things being imbued with the Force. Like, think about temples, ruins, staffs, holocrons, lightsabers themselves. You have all these items of non-living material, yet they can channel the Force. They're imbued with the Force. And then you also have Mechuderu, which is the Sith ability to manipulate technology with the Force. So you're directly able to control droids, computers, with the Force itself without any type of biological intermediary between them. Just the person, the Force, and technology. Kazdan Paratus imbuing droids, piecing them together and giving them an aura of the Force to continue living. So I feel like there is a lot of precedence to say maybe. I think it's a big gray area.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've convinced me more towards that.
And that's not even with that's not even with the supernatural encounters lore.
Ooh. Okay. So, that alone. That's cool.
And also, so before I get into supernatural encounters, every droid, well, maybe not every droid, but we see the trope of them saying, "Thank the Maker," C-3PO, right, and then other droids also. And so, in universe, this is a very big mystery because it seems that at the most fundamental line of code of every droid, they're programmed with this, idea of thank the Maker, thank the Creator, the builder. And so no one's been able to delete that. No one's been able to figure out where that comes from. And so Supernatural Encounters explores this. You have Hidden Pitham. He's the son of Splendid App, which is one of those Bedlam spirits. He's the pink guy. And so he makes Pitham as his son, and Pitham is like designed as like this crystalline entity who can control time and dimension rending, stuff like that. And so that's very powerful. And then you have Typhogem, which is Cthulhu, god of the Sith. He wants to be like the most powerful god, so he's on this quest to find power, like the Kyber crystal, all the crystals, basically making the Infinity Gauntlet, trying to be Thanos type thing. And so, a part of his quest is he wants to take Pitham and, take his powers. And so Pitham realizes, how much of a threat Typhogem is. And so, to escape Typhogem, what he does is he disperses his life essence into the universe, so Typhogem can't get to him. And so, given that he's a crystal himself, he disperses his life force across the silicon matrix of the galaxy, which I don't really know what that means. I think maybe it's just like, I guess he's imbuing himself into like the technology of the galaxy. And so by doing so, I guess the silicon or whatever is used to create the brains of droids, whenever a droid is built, the metal frame, and whenever it's given the ability to communicate and have artificial thought, then Pitham's essence would supervene upon the substrate of the droid to bring forth robotic life. So Pitham is breathing souls into droids because he's dispersed into the universe across, I guess, silicon or metal, whatever that means. He's dispersed across the universe, and every time a droid wakes up, Pitham's breathing life into them, and that's that fundamental think the maker. Pitham's the maker.
Whoa!
I don't know if I like all that. I mean, there's a lot of creativity in that, and
Yeah.
I'm assuming a lot of that comes from supernatural encounters.
Yeah, that's so Pitham is supernatural encounters, but already in the EU is the big mystery of why do all droids have this fundamental line of code? Why do they have the maker? Because what they believed was happening is that, droids are just made to do this to make their owners comfortable. Like, it's, thank the maker. It's just a silly exclamation to make them seem more alive for their owners. But like, it's still like, why is there this fundamental line of code? Why can't we delete it? Why does it keep coming back?
You also have the fact that if a droid does not have their memory wiped, after a while they start to gain more independence. And then you also have like the IG units. They were highly intelligent, where they were plotting to take over the galaxy.
Yeah, he almost like superseded his programming. I think therefore I am. So he became realization of himself, like his own thoughts and his own. He didn't need to follow his programming. He could sort of like do what he wanted to take over the galaxy.
And see, even then, given that R2D2 and C3PO, they're the custodians of the Journal of the Wills. So even them, they're already interwoven into the Force, into fate. So droids may be made of non-living things, but they're still heavily integrated into the Force.
Because it sounds like that the Force uses the droids anyway. They follow the will of the Force as well.
Yeah, and like the idea I have is that life interacts with the living Force, because midichlorians are those intermediaries between the wills and the celestials. So the will of the Force comes through to the midichlorians, which translates that for living beings within their bloodstream. That's why they're able to hear, because they have the midichlorians. The midichlorians are like telephones. When you have a droid, there might not even be a need to have midichlorians. They can just directly communicate with the cosmic Force as if it were like energy, as if it was a signal. for the droid. And so, like, when you have things like crystals, like lightsaber crystals or crystal shards for the Iron Knights, those crystals are taking this the flow of the Force and just like channeling it directly. There's no need for midichlorians with those.
That's neat. It's a really good way of seeing it, and like Scott said, an argument for it.
I like the idea of like droids being Force sensitive. I think that's more convincing than maybe some of that other stuff. But you also have, in terms of the maker, C-3PO, like in the films, he refers to Anakin when he sees him as the maker. So it's not necessarily Anakin infusing a consciousness, a soul into him. He just put them together, and C-3PO is able to recognize that.
Well, but even then, C-3PO was already a droid for a century before that. So if anything, Anakin just refurbished C-3PO. So that's a thing with that.
Interesting. I didn't know we were going to go that deep with Skippy.
I told you I had notes.
Whoa, that was nice.
It was that was incredible. Now, if this story, Skippy the Jedi Droid, didn't have references to never let him play in droid type games and have these Easter eggs in here and have cinnamon buns, if it wasn't silly, if they took the silly elements out, could this be believed by fans as canon, as part of the EU legitimately?
I can definitely understand why the idea is silly, but like just like with looking at like when you immerse yourself in the EU and you see all this precedence and like different facets of technology in the Force, like I believe it could. And as that article says, it frames this as an in-universe myth. So that's how I explain all the silliness and like, wouldn't let him play any droid games. Maybe that's like the vocal telling of this myth. That's a part of it. So that's how I reconcile the silliness of it.
Yeah. Which the interesting thing with this issue is I would consider all the ones that we've talked about as canon. And then this one, I mean, that's what the book series is called. It's a tale. It doesn't have to be canon, but it's just a tale. And I never really considered this as a in-universe myth until after you brought attention all those different things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, dang. Scott, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, this is the first sort of silly Star Wars tale. Many more would come along later in later issues, but this is probably one of my favorite of the silly ones. It's I like how they make reference to like the special edition. This goes back to letting you know it's 1999, where it says, and the armored soldiers sometimes were riding on large lizard-like creatures, but other times they were just sitting on a large replica of one. It was all very confusing to Skippy here. And that's it reference to, I think, one of the props in special edition. One of the dewbacks doesn't move at all. So I like how they got cinnamon buns in there. They got reference to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Mystery Science Theater.
Mystery Science
Futurama.
Theater. Yeah. There's probably a couple more that we missed in here.
I think the aliens, a couple of the aliens might be Easter eggs. I know there's a normal like green alien, like stereotypical alien in there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And how about Obi-Wan? So is it believable that Obi-Wan was trying to find another Jedi on Tatooine?
Well, because the thing is with that, there's already a lot of Force users on Tatooine, and in the cantina alone, there's quite a lot of them. Like, for instance, you have Lisa Serlin, who's the pink lady with the big bulbous head. She's on the run from the Inquisitors. Antonis Tremaine tried to take her as a child because she had primitive abilities. and then you have Saris, who's
Prophetess, yeah.
who's there undercover. So I think oh, and then you have the Lamproid. I forgot her name. And then you have one of the Shistavanans, I think. But you have a lot of these like
They're at
force
least
sensitives.
force sensitive, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
mildly, like, it's a spectrum. So I think like the main thing with Obi-Wan is like he's aware of everyone, and so he's trying to identify them to keep his distance, because he's in the cantina with Luke. Like, he could have gathered all these people that are here, but he's only focused on Luke. So I think he's trying to identify these Force users and steer clear of them in case the Empire comes. Maybe direct the attention away from him and towards these other people. And so maybe he's so like fascinated because like this Force user is like right here, but I can't identify them. So, they're in hiding better than I am, kind of thing. So I think he's just trying to be careful.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any final comments? Oh, actually, one of my favorite Tales stories that is a humorous one is the trial of Who Shot First. I can't remember what that's called.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
But
they're in court, and is Vader the judge? I think.
No, the Emperor is the judge.
Oh, the Emperor is, okay.
And they look at the footage of who shot first, Greedo or Han Solo, and it's hilarious. Oh man. Anyway, do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
I really like the first the first story of number 2, the next one.
Okay.
That's where it establishes what Han Solo's mother's name is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's Jaina.
Yes, I knew.
Yeah.
Knew that. But yeah,
very interesting.
We'll get to that one eventually. We have Fizzy in the chat.
Sandblasted was my first Tales.
Here are my favorite Tales are Equal Opportunities, Honor Bound, Outbid but Never Outgunned, Sandblasted, Thank the Maker, and Storyteller. Storyteller might be my favorite serious one.
I love Collapsing Empires.
I was just looking at the index of the stories here, and this one has its own title. It's just artwork. It's like Vader as a samurai.
Yes.
So I know Sanda art.
Kind of weird that it's just one page, and it's in the index here, at least in the trade paperback, as if it was its own story. That's why I was confused. What Living Force, like, is that the title? Because it was on the inside of one page, and then you have the Living Force on the next page.
Yeah. I don't know if mine has that.
They collected them, as you said, out of order. So I don't know. It was just weird. It's something I don't remember in the first issue. I don't remember if I picked the first issue up of Tales off the newsstand. Might have been like the second or third one, but those were always fun. And I think they had more creative intro first pages where it was like the editors, and I think one of the issues had Triclops from the Jedi Prince series.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. It was something similar to that. Anyone that watches this video, if you can find it, there's a story about some of the editors, and they go to Skywalker Ranch, and they basically get sucked into the special editions. I'm trying to find that comic somewhere. I think I've asked you guys about it, but
yeah, I still have. I think most of the Star Wars Tales, they're off in storage, but I'll look through them. It's weird that they didn't reprint those promotional like
Yeah.
intro panels in the trade paperbacks. It's frustrating. They probably should have.
Oh man, now I want to collect each of the issues individually because I love those. But do you guys have anything that you would like to promote before we conclude this podcast? No? All right. Well, thank you to my panelists here, and thank you to everyone that is watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Please like and subscribe, and leave a comment of something you'd like us to go over. If you have a topic of anything, we'll make sure to have Logan, because Logan can take this silly story and then make it like so deep and rich. It's fantastic. But thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful evening.